I'm going to play The Way. I don't know what we're going to do with it, but I'm going to play it. It's very difficult. It's the most difficult poem this week. And for those of you who are nervous about things getting difficult, Josh, are you nervous? Things are going to get difficult. Would you and Katie swap? Let's get Joe up here. Josh. For those who are nervous, you have a reason to be nervous if you don't get The Way. The Way is actually a lot like the poems we're going to be encountering after a while in this course. So here, Chris Martin, are we ready? Here is Rae Armantrout performing The Way.
The Way. Card in pew pocket announces, I am here. I made only one statement because of a bad winter. Grease is the word, Grease is the way. I am feeling real-life emergencies or flubbing behind the scenes. As a child, I was abandoned in a story made of trees. Here's the small gasp of this clearing, come upon, again.
And come upon, and again are in quotes. All right, we're going to go around. We don't do this often because it takes a long time. But starting with Dave Poplar, and then Erica, Max, Molly, Josh, Gabe, Davey, Joe, Emily, Jason. We're going to go around. And I want you to say any one thing about this poem. Anything, but it's got to be brief. Something that people might have missed. Now remember, we did a video about this poem, so it's not as if it's totally alien to people. So Dave, can you say one thing about Rae Armantrout's The Way? Please?
I love the line, flubbing behind the scenes, and I love that it's the only one that takes up a single line, makes it stand out.
Cool. Erica Kaufman?
I am feeling.
Yeah, what do you think that's doing?
Lots of amazing things. Line break before it really makes that line for me.
Yeah. And she respects the line break in the performance. Mm-hmm. Grease is the word. Grease is the way. I am feeling. It's almost comic, but yes, I am feeling. And this is a poem that's been said because it's so multivocal and so not subject, not her, that I am feeling becomes almost ironic because it's other people who are doing the I. Yes, great. Max?
The small gasp. I love gasp as offset, and a small gasp is so much lovelier than a big gasp.
Yeah. Yeah, big gasp is like, woohoo! Like, the earth is rumbling under my feet. Big revelation. But small gasp is, right? Yeah, it's cool. All right, Mal, a thought?
I'm thinking about Grease as a little snippet of collective childhood memory and the things that we associate with movies we see when we're young.
Yeah. And I love that line from Grease. Grease is the word. I'm not singing it, but I'm hearing it in my head. Yeah, there's a memory. That's good, Mal. There's a memory there. Josh, hey, this is Josh. Right up to the mic, Josh.
Hey, everybody. I think my attention goes to the word here. We have this from Emily. We have now from Whitman. We're talking about Sid's space, and now we have here. Perhaps Armantrout's geography, this space of the story that is perhaps the destination of if you take the way, you will be here. Perhaps here is the journey that you complete on the way. She doesn't specify it, but we have a new thing.
Josh, where the fuck did you come from? Josh.
Chicago, Illinois.
God. That's so great. Yes. Here's the small gasp. Here it is. Here's where I get lost in the woods. Here's where I'm Hansel and Gretel. Here's where I learn how to read. Here. That's so cool. Gabe, top that.
I wanted to point out just like the way Rae Armantrout reads, not to use the way in my answer, but
you did.
Her manner of reading. It, like, to me, a Rae Armantrout reading always sounds like at the end of it, she's going to sort of like slap her knee and like do a little like, because it's like, it sounds like almost like a dirty joke or like a little like euphemism that she's saying. So she's like, card in pew pocket announces, I am here. Like it sort of has this,
I don't know if Ray's going to love hearing that, but
that's fine. But
no,
I think it's actually, I think it seems very purposeful to me because
Yeah.
it's not how she speaks. And then what's good about that is like everything sounds euphemistic. Everything sounds like somebody else is saying it. So in the first half of this, you have these like quoted statements that are being framed in this way that maybe it sounds like they're being quoted, but then at the end when it becomes a more personal narrative or something like that, it's still in that mode. So of this clearing come upon again, like it doesn't sound like there's this like very natural or melodramatic shift. She keeps this sort of like irony to the whole thing.
That's good. Thank you. Davey?
I want to go back to what you were saying, Al, about being able to hear and not hear. Grease is the word in the way that it's borrowed. And those lines stand out to me. Grease is the word, Grease is the way I am feeling, because they create a kind of counter musicality. And what I mean by that is I feel like I have to actively push against the like onslaught of that music to be like, no, I'm asserting this poem against all of that noise. And that tension, that all of the other noise that this excerpted language, this borrowed language could come with, being able to push against that creates sort of a beautiful tension that Rae's really reading into, that she creates a lot of space around her lines when she reads, and thinking about the poem as something that's poised between different kinds of forces that like is a keystone within a frame of sound is something that feels like it's doing a lot of work for me here.
Wow, Davey, I am surrounded by smart people, and it is the best feeling. Joe?
Just a small point. I love Rae's work. I've read it for years. It's one of my favorite poets.
This poem might be relatively new to you, right?
It's I've actually have used a bit of this as an epigraph for one of my books. Yeah, here's the small gasp of this clearing. But this poem is kind of rare for Rae in that it's not in sections, so that
numbered sections.
Like we were talking earlier about the act of the relationship between the poem and the reader and the creative act of reading. That act is a bit different here because you have to take it all in one shot, where she usually breaks the poems down into bits, increments. So it's an incremental experience, and it's a different way of reading creatively. Yeah, it's a different way.
Right. Fantastic. Emily?
Yeah, I really love what Josh said about here, referring to this particular poem, and I think that kind of tilts the way we can read the final line of "Here's the small gasp of this clearing come upon again." That this poem itself offers a way for us to be found and be kind of eternally found and never be lost. Yeah, it has a really lovely connotation.
Fantastic. Jason's next, and then Lil, and then we can go right to the phone call. The Twitter sphere is bursting. Colleen Knight, nice to hear Davey speaking about space, frame of sound, etc. And Nicola, our friend from southwest England, I believe, or Wales, I'm not sure. Sorry, Nicola. Puns. Here, here. Here, H-E-R-E. Here, H-E-A-R. The way. Here, the way. Pretty cool. Okay. Jason, your thought on the way?
Yeah. I'm sorry, but I have two, and I'll be really quick. First is to, oddly, this just occurred to me, is to think about this fragmentary overhearing. Reminds me of flipping through the TV channels and making a poem of what I hear as I flip through, which reminds me of Frank O'Hara's moving through the city and having the random geography of the city be the thing that is that sequences the poem. The other is a fact that when I was 7, I was obsessed with the movie Grease for some reason. I remember being at a drive-in where in the out the rear window was Jaws, and at the front window was Grease. I might have been Jaws too.
Were you dreaming that?
No, my brother was slamming his head.
There are drive-ins where they do back-to-back?
Yeah, that was in 1977 or 9, when Grease came out. But what is important about this particular song that is quoted is that this was the disco song that was released along with the movie, whereas all the other songs from the movie were doo-wop 1950s songs. So the movie itself is an act of nostalgia or of displacement in time or of quoting time, whereas this song that's quoted was the disco release to coincide with the film to catch the current audience.
Rae Armantrout is obsessed with layers of cultural archaeology Later in this course in Mod Po Plus, we have the poem about the Tennessee Waltz, which does exactly the same thing. Good point. Lily, quickly on the way, and then we'll take the phone call.
Okay, well, I missed a little bit of what everyone said on the phone, but my only thing to add here is more of a tone, an idea about tone. I think it's really important not to lose the darkness and the some of the sort of like terror or danger that's behind a lot of this poem. I think we tend to read the ending as very positive, and I want to push back on that by saying, for example, the story Made of Trees could be more of a Grimm's fairy tale forest where bad things happen to children who are abandoned. The Card in Pew Pocket could be in a Gothic church, a very scary architectural space to
And
your
then
child.
there's the person who didn't speak for a winter.
Right, and then Grease, can be kind of the danger there is in like actually a very scary vision of gender, if you think about what happens at the end of that movie. And there's actually an idea of emergencies. So I think, there's a positive reading to this poem, and then there's a very dark undertone. So I don't want to miss out on that in the
When
reading.
Rae Armantrout was here as a Writers' House Fellow, I think some of us some of us speculated on the darker reading. And Rae hadn't thought of it that way, but she came around to it, I believe.
Yeah.
And the idea of, in particular, in her memory of her mother introducing her to the Grimm's, the scary Grimm's forest, Hansel, Gretel, following Crumb's reading experience, getting lost. It's both a very positive thing, but a very sad and difficult thing for her, because then you've got a parent introducing you to the lostness of reading and losing yourself, and it's like an alternative to people being your parents.
Right, and a very, very gripping and real like memory that continues for a lot of people into childhood of a fear of being abandoned, just physically as a child being abandoned, not just a story.
Yes, and I think there's a whole 19th century tradition, and this has been written about by Anne Douglas and others, of women and girls in particular learning that the only place where they can get lost in a kind of liberating sense is in these giant books and novels that they were reading, the so-called cult of sentimentality. And that was an escape for girls and women, and also a place to get lost and be separated from the hurly-burly commercial life that was reality of the United States.